Hello and welcome to Revitalize Your Health, how to get off the roller coaster ride of failed diets and pills and achieve radiant health. This is an interview series dedicated to bringing you inspiring stories, an abundance of knowledge on how to create sustainable, healthy lifestyle habits, and provide you with the tools to improve your health today. I am your host, Danica Koopmans, and today I have the special privilege of interviewing Dr. Gemma Newman. She has been a doctor for 16 years and has helped her patients overcome all kinds of challenges. She now looks after nearly 3,000 patients in her own medical practice. And a few years ago, she became frustrated with the limitations of modern medicine to treat certain conditions. She wanted to find new ways to bring vitality back to her patients. Since then, she has been researching methods and applying strategies that have achieved incredible results that are transformative for people she treats. Gemma speaks at conferences internationally, as well as contributing to well-known podcasts, including Deliciously Ella and Rich Roll, along with giving health and well-being advice on BBC radio shows and television news. And she's also just a spectacular mom and wife and all of the above. I am so grateful to have connected with you and have you on the show. It's going to bring a ton of value to the audience. So thank you so much for taking the time.
Thank you, Danica. That was just the most lovely and gracious and warm introduction. Really special. Thank you so much. It's a pleasure to be here with you.
Oh, thank you. So my first question for you is actually something I briefly had a moment to talk to you about earlier, but I love your story of just sort of feeling that limitation in your medical practice in the modern medicine. And I think this is personally why I feel really connected to the nutrition and the whole food plant-based aspect to healing disease. So I would just love to hear a little bit more about your experience and how your practice actually looks now and how it evolved for you and wherever you want to expand on that question.
Okay, well, I think like many idealistic young physicians, I left medical school feeling as though I was ready and equipped to change the world. And lo and behold, I started my medical practice and I went around different specialties and I thought, oh, this isn't quite how the world works. And, you know, people are really suffering from a lot of different chronic diseases, mental health issues, that it's actually not that straightforward to help them with. And certainly the training that I experienced, much as it was extensive and, you know, it was a great training, there was a lot more emphasis on things like pharmacology and anatomy and biochemistry and disease processes, rather than the idea that, you know, left to your own devices, a lot of the time, you know, your body can do incredible things if you give your body the right nutrients, if you give your body the right sleep, if you give your body the right movement, if you look after your mental health and well-being. These things can make a huge difference. And that's something that I'd previously overlooked. And it's, you know, it was a real joy to start bringing that into my medical practice, which I started to do after I became a general practitioner, family physician. Although I was always learning about different techniques to help people through psychological techniques, for example, especially, you know, when I was doing things like obstetrics and gynecology and psychiatry, learning about cognitive behavioral therapy, solution-focused therapeutic approaches, like all of these things built up to increase what I had in my toolbox. But it was really when I discovered the benefits of plant-based nutrition that I started to see quite profound and fairly fast changes in how people were responding and how they felt, which was just really remarkable and something that I'd not seen before, despite all the years that I had been talking about things like psychology and well-being and you know, mindfulness techniques and all of that stuff. So it was an incredible joy to bring everything together. And, you know, I heard Desmond Tutu, Archbishop Desmond Tutu, he was talking about people's spiritual health. And he came up with this phrase which really struck me to the core. And he said, you know, sooner or later we've got to stop pulling people out of the river and we've got to walk upstream and figure out why it is they keep falling in. And when he said that, and I heard him say that, it really struck a chord with me, because I thought that's what we need to do, not just doctors, but dietitians and nutritionists and everybody that is trying to help people in this way. You know, we need to walk upstream with our patients, with our clients, and try and figure out what is it that keeps you back, holding you back? What is it? And get to that sort of place with them and go on that journey with them, rather than, just more superficially helping them through pills and procedures.
Yes, that's such a great answer. And I feel like it's super powerful because really the easy answer is here, take a pill. But the lasting and the most beneficial can sometimes actually be the hard work. And it's really only hard work until it's easy, which you know from probably your own journey, right?
Yeah, exactly. And also, just to say, in my medical practice, I do still give pills and I do
Yes.
still recommend procedures. It's not either or. I'm a big fan of evidence-based medicine. It's what I practice. But people are more than just their diagnoses, and ultimately I think that's what people like to know, that their doctor feels, is that they are more than just the diagnosis they've been given, and give them their own tools so they can help themselves. It can be really disempowering when you're given a diagnosis. You're diagnosed with a chronic disease, and then you're left floundering. You think, well, what am I supposed to do? And it's a really difficult thing to go through. So if you've got somebody that can actually give you a bit of hope that you have a little bit more autonomy, you have a little bit more control over how this progresses, you can choose to embrace some of these techniques and feel better, then it can be a win-win. Don't have to make any promises, but certainly it gives people a lot more hope, and it makes them feel better too. So that's good.
Yes. And autonomy there is and the control back. That is huge, right?
Yeah, it really is. And I think it's interesting as well, at this time in 2020 where there's been so much uncertainty, so much fear, so much confusion, that it can feel quite hard because we have this illusion of control, and a lot of the time we want to be able to feel as though we know what's going to happen next. And this is a particularly hard time because nobody really knows exactly what's going to happen next. And giving people an idea that, well, at least if I focus on my inner self, at least if I focus on what I put on my plate, at least if I focus on moving my body, then I can begin to feel differently, and I can begin to focus differently, and my mindset can feel different. And it has a knock-on effect on other parts of people's lives, which is really empowering for them.
Absolutely. And you just touched on, actually, I swear we didn't plan this, audience, but you're flowing perfectly with my questions. You mentioned just some mindfulness and just the practice of our mindset and some of the tools that you learned from doing psychiatry and cognitive behavior therapy. And so my next question is actually really funny because this term gratitude, right? And gratitude journaling and its benefits. I, for a long time would get kind of triggered by that. It would make me cringe inside. I don't want to, but then you do it and you see the benefits, and you see other people do it and you see the benefits. And so I'm curious if you wouldn't mind just sharing a little bit more about how this sort of works, and maybe other ways besides just journaling that we can express this gratitude, because I think that we know that it's beneficial, but maybe you can go a little bit deeper into why.
Yeah, I think it's really interesting what you said about how you felt it jarred with you at first, because it's true, people go through a lot of bad stuff, and to ask someone to feel grateful about it, that just seems so counterintuitive. Why should I be grateful for my disease? But I think it's really about understanding the power of intention and the power of positivity, which is genuine positivity. People have had enough of fake positivity and things on social media. When people put stuff out there that isn't necessarily 100% authentic, and people can begin to understand that that's not authentic, that's not coming from a good place. But actually, when it comes to your healing journey, it's not about feeling grateful for all the things that you've been through, but really it's just about focusing on the little things, and focusing your mind on noticing the good rather than noticing the bad. And that's a really powerful tool for shifting your physiology. So in doing that, what you're saying to yourself is not denying the bad stuff. You're not denying that you have been through hard times and that you are going through difficult things. It's about acceptance of what is, and then moving forwards through that in an understanding of what you can do next. Knowing that you have all that you need within you to cope with what you're going through, but understanding that focusing on those things that you can control is going to bring you a better physiological result. It's going to allow you to engage your parasympathetic nervous system, your rest and renew. It's going to make you start to notice the stuff that you can feel good about, notice the stuff that you can give to other people, notice the ways in which your struggles allow you to understand the struggles of others. And all of those little things that it's hard to focus on when you're going in a downward spiral. It's about lifting you back up into the positive spiral that will allow you greater inner healing, which is part of that journey, really. So it is interesting. I read a little bit of research around gratitude, and there was a conference where people were asked to do just a simple 5-minute gratitude meditation 3 times throughout the conference over a course of 2 days. And they had salivary tests of IgA and cortisol. And the idea is they wanted to check the immune system of the participants, the delegates, and their stress responses. And unbelievably, the salivary cortisol levels went down dramatically after just 2 days of doing 5 minutes of gratitude meditations 3 times a day. And their immune responses were increased. So they were able to give their own innate immune system a bit of a boost, and they were able to reduce the stress hormones that were circulating in their own body. So it provided them with a benefit, as well as hopefully benefiting the people around them. So there's a definite positive for people in doing this, not just for their own bodies, but for other people as well.
Isn't that amazing? And really, I think that if we think about things as less about doing for ourselves and more for doing for others, I think there's a greater gift and purpose around that. So that is such an awesome study. That's what I love about medicine nowadays. Like, 100 years ago, it must have been so difficult. Nowadays, we're like, we just want to test the cortisol and we do a swab and we can see the results. Like, whereas a long time ago, they wouldn't have been able to show, objectively that this happened due to this, right? I mean, I'm sure there's other factors involved that they had to play with too, but that's really awesome. Thanks for sharing that.
Oh, you're welcome. It's very powerful. And there are, you look on PubMed and you can see that there's actually a lot of studies going on all the time, especially in the world of psychology, where people are understanding the power of gratitude, the power of journaling, the power of letter writing to those who you felt wronged by, and how that can impact stress, anxiety, depression, and physical illness. So, there's a definite link, and it brings me great hope, because, we're social creatures. We're creatures that, we do want to help other people. And, when we can help ourselves and others at the same time, it's just a win-win.
Absolutely. So this next question, my clients are probably going to be like, preach, because I literally say this all the time. But I think, you're whole food, plant-based, and you really take a holistic approach to your own life. I think just from hearing you speak and learning a little bit about you. And obviously, that's my philosophy as well. And I think, I want to add this into, I know that you mentioned, it's not one or the other, and I would agree. It's not Western medicine versus alternative. It's how they work together. And I want to know, just because I know I talk about nutrition all the time and, disease reversal and stuff, but what are really the top ways that you've seen, maybe in the literature or in your own practice, that a plant-based diet has been able to reverse and prevent further disease from happening?
So, there's a lot of data in the literature for a wide variety of illnesses. Essentially, plant-based approaches are generally quite good for cancer prevention and for heart disease prevention, and the American College of Cardiology agrees with that. plant-based diet is the base of the prevention guidelines that they came out with. And the World Cancer Research Fund as well talks about how important it is to have fruits, vegetables, whole grains and legumes as the cornerstone of your diet if you're aiming to prevent cancer. But there's some data coming out as well about potential for disease prevention and reversal. So there's some great data coming out for prostate cancer reversal using plant-based approaches, lengthening the telomere chromosomes, which essentially helps to reverse cellular aging. There are age-old studies on the reversal of signs of heart disease, and there's a few of those too. So you've got the Ornish study from 1990, you've got the Esselstyn research, which was most recently published in 2014, and then you've got the Mount Abu heart disease study that came out from India. And generally speaking, if you just look at population-based studies on just generally Mediterranean diet patterns, you see that a real plant-forward approach works. Increasing whole grains works. Increasing pulses and legumes, nuts and seeds works. So what is that? Well, it's the basis of a whole foods plant-based diet. But yeah, I mean, diabetes, that's another huge one. My goodness, there's research dating back to the 1920s and the 30s to show how insulin sensitivity works, how insulin resistance works, how whole plant foods can help with that. And so any one area, I could talk about individual studies and we could probably talk for an hour about each one. But the bottom line is whole foods plant-based, generally speaking, works well because you're really emphasizing foods that have got loads of antioxidants, phytonutrients, fiber, vitamins, minerals, and you're minimizing your exposure to other things that could be potentially either carcinogenic or have other effects on the body that are deleterious, excess of heme iron, oxidative stress, excess of refined oils, excess of refined sugar, excess of refined flour. All of those things generally would cause inflammation on a cellular level, whereas if you're having lots of whole foods that are come from the ground, then you're providing your body with those building blocks for a healthy body.
Amazing. So how can I be your patient? You're awesome. I love the way you explained everything.
Oh, thank you. Well, you don't need me, Danica. I'm pretty sure you're healthy. So
I know it's funny. It would just be nice to have, a physician on the same page, right? I think that often we have that internal battle. No, that's really
hard for people. I do have a website where people can look up a lot of this data, and it's straightforward and easy to come by. I've put it by different segments. I've got heart disease, I've got diabetes, I've got raising kids, pregnancy. At the click of a button, you could watch a presentation. And that was my aim, really, is to get the information out there to more people. And my book's coming out as well at the end of the year, in January, I think. So that's going to be hopefully so straightforward. It literally talks about the science in a really accessible way. You've got some recipes in there. It's hopefully going to get people. They won't need me on my prescription pad. They just need the resources, and they're good to go mostly.
That's amazing. So I'm going to share all of that for the people that are listening in the email that I sent out. You'll be able to just click the links to receive all of Dr. Newman's stuff. That's perfect, I think. Is that okay?
Of course, that's fantastic. Yeah, okay. That'd be lovely.
Awesome. Do you know your book title, or is that secret?
Well, I think I'm not supposed to talk about it just yet, but very soon I can share it with you. Very, very soon. So watch this space. If you go to my website and sign up for my newsletter, I'll aim to start doing a newsletter. I've been too busy. Or on Instagram, I'll definitely be announcing it on Instagram. So if you follow me on Instagram, I promise you'll find out very soon the title and all of the rest. And
how we can pre-order our copy, right?
Exactly. That's so important. We've got to get the pre-orders in, haven't we? That's crucial. So absolutely.
Crucial. So I need to be the first to know. There's people like me out there, okay, who are just waiting.
Okay, you'll be first on my list, I promise.
Thank you. So, I don't want to end on that awesome note about your book, but you'll tell us more.
Absolutely.
So, good. I think, for my last sort of question for you, is we know that food affects our mood, and whether we want to believe it or not, how do you sort of explain this to patients?
So it's my number one job in a consultation is really to listen, and that's what I do first. I think you get a surprising amount of insights when you just let someone talk, and they get those insights too. They often tell themselves the answers that they need. So that is the first step. But if people are open to learning about the role of nutrition in their mood, then one of the key things to know about is the effect of fiber. Fiber allows you to produce short chain fatty acids, which communicate with your gut lining, and they communicate with the neurotransmitters that you're making, serotonin and dopamine. And there's a lot of data now to show that they can genuinely affect our mood. And there is a very strong connection between eating whole and healthy and unprocessed foods and feeling better. But the ironic thing is, when you're feeling low, the last thing you want to do is reach for a plate of steamed broccoli. You want the quick fix. You want something to boost those fast acting dopamine receptors. You want the ice cream, you want the glass of wine, or whatever it is that appeals to you. And that's where the food industry, I think, plays a big part in our cravings. They spend millions to create food that's hyper palatable, and that fires off all those receptors in the right way, with the right consistency, that sort of melt in the mouth. The emulsifiers that they use. In a sense, our own body and mind and nature almost doesn't really have a chance. So if we know about the power of nutrition to affect our mood, it's crucial in understanding, actually, that's not going to make me feel better long term. I'm going to reach for the healthy food. And tryptophan is really important. It's an amino acid that is one of the building blocks for serotonin. But of course, people think that having high tryptophan foods like with animal products, for example, with like chicken, they think that's going to work really well to boost your mood. But for some reason, some of the data doesn't show that. And one of the reasons that's postulated to be is because if you have a food that's very high in many other amino acids, there may be some competition to get past the blood-brain barrier, because serotonin itself, which is made in the gut, for example, can't get past the blood-brain barrier, whereas tryptophan can. But there is competition with other amino acids to get past and have serotonin to be created. So having high tryptophan and high fiber foods can sometimes overcome that barrier. So if you're having foods like sesame seeds and butternut squash, sweet potatoes, high tryptophan and high fiber foods combined are potentially very good for ensuring that you're getting enough serotonin made in the brain. And talking about serotonin unrelated to diet, getting early morning daylight is really important as well, because the daylight against the back of your eye retina stimulates you to make serotonin, some of which 12 hours later can be converted to melatonin, which will allow you a really good sleep-wake cycle. And a decent night's sleep is then going to be really important to help you feel better. If something's made you feel bad, you sleep on it, next morning you do tend to feel better as long as you've got a decent night's sleep. And so sleep-wake cycles are just as important as the nutrition that we put inside our bodies to help us feel better too.
Have you heard of the 5 a.m. Club?
No. What's the 5 a.m. Club?
Oh my goodness, you're going to love it. His name is Robin Sharma. He wrote the book, The 5 a.m. Club. And in a brief summary, it's a formula, 20-20-20, 20 minutes. You wake up at 5 a.m., 20 minutes of exercise, 20 minutes of meditation, 20 minutes of doing something that you enjoy. And this is sort of setting you up for success, because as we know, and as you know, the rest of the day is going to go away. Like, it's just going to get away from you. And fitting that time in for yourself and self-care becomes harder and harder as the day progresses. So it's about doing it right away in the morning, and just the benefits it has on mood, energy, anxiety, different things. Yeah, you'd like that book.
I
Yes,
think I will. I think I really would like that book. That's amazing. So it basically is a great way of giving you practical tips to create a great morning routine.
absolutely. Which is, kind of what you mentioned.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think a lot of people don't realize the benefits of that. And if you can create movement as well as being outside, depending on the weather, that's all the better. You could combine the
Absolutely.
two.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
This has been amazing. You've really shared an abundance of information, and I'm really grateful, and I know the audience will be as well. Is there any last words or last minute thoughts that you really want people to leave leave listening with?
Yeah, yeah, I think so. I think basically just remember your worth. Remember that you have all that you need within you to feel better, and as long as you're giving yourself a bit more love, whether that's on your plate, whether that's in your heart, whether that's allowing you to move your body a little bit more, give yourself that time, then that's the beginning of feeling better and empowering yourself towards health. And it's not about making yourself feel guilty for what you didn't do. It's just about taking that first step, that baby step towards feeling good about yourself and giving yourself the love that you need. Yeah, that would be my final thoughts.
That's fantastic. I feel like everybody really needs to hear that. I know it resonated with me, so thank you.
Mm.
And
Oh,
thank you
my
so much
pleasure.
for being here.
It's a joy. It's been lovely to chat with you. Thank you so much, Danica, for the opportunity.
You're
And
welcome.
hopefully we'll meet in person one day.
It would be amazing.
Mm.
Talk soon.
Bye.